My Husband's Ex. Episode 8, final episode. Kelly wasn't expecting Brad to get so furious. Neither did he expect that he'd go as extreme as lurching at him with a sharp object. He tried to dodge the attack in the last minute, but didn't get quite lucky. The scissors cut his skin, piercing into his chest and making impact with sensitive organs of this body. A scream escaped his lips just before he fell on the table. The impact of the blow, too fatal for him to survive. Brad looked at Kelly for a few seconds and, realizing what he had done, dropped the scissors on the table as quickly as he had picked it, rubbed off the stains on his hands, on Kelly's clothes, and walked out of the office as carefully as he could. He knew Kelly would be found dead soon, and didn't want anything that would make him complacent to the murder, so he quickly went home, got a change of clothes, and returned to the hospital. His plan was simple. He'd ask one of the nurses to inform Kelly that he has been waiting for him because they planned to attend a marriage, have the nurse return to inform him of the situation, and have an alibi that he hadn't seen Kelly that day. And just like he had planned, the nurse he sent to the office returned with a scream, alerting everyone that the doctor had been killed. Brad created quite a scene with his wails, complaining of how Kelly had left the world so soon, and about how he had left him without a confidant. People gathered around Brad to console him, with one other doctor who worked there, vowing to ensure he got to the bottom of the case. I hope the culprit left what leads us to him. Have you checked the CCTV footage? It could help point us to the killer, Brad suggested, remembering with great joy that Kelly had told him about getting the camera off his office because of the nefarious activities he engaged in there. For some reasons, Mr. Brad, the cameras in his office were faced to the wall, making it as good as useless, the doctor replied in frustration. When Brad was leaving the hospital that day, Kelly's body had been deposited in the hospital's morgue. He walked to his car and watched the other doctor order the nurses to leave him alone with Jovani. Chief Jonah had been called to inform him of the unfortunate incident, and because he wasn't in town, he had to send Jovani to the hospital. Jovani asked some questions that made Brad so unsettled, but he was glad neither of the questions were directed at him. He was talking to the lead doctor. He didn't feel comfortable as he watched Jovani discuss with the doctor there, but there was nothing he could do to stop them from talking. Come on, Brad, there's nothing to worry about. Nobody saw you and Kelly today, and the cameras didn't capture anything. There's absolutely nothing this dude can do to make me be held responsible for this crime, he thought happily, then drove away. He had more pressing things to worry about. Things like what to do to make Sophia return to his sides. It's a pity Kelly had to go. I didn't really mean to go all the way down, but he made me feel stupid, making the annoying comparison between me and the crazy cousin of his, mocking me, after his wicked advice made me lose the woman I love, Brad thought as he drove to his house. He had decided on the best line of action. He would draw Sophia out, get her to believe he was going to hurt himself, and make Jovani see them together and show him how futile it was to fight over a woman with her ex whom she once loved so much. Hello, Sophia. How have you been? Brad asked as soon as Sophia answered his call. He knew she may not answer his call if he tried to call her with the phone number she already knew, so he had to get a new mobile line registered to be able to reach her. May I know who's speaking, please? Sophia asked as calmly as she could, not being able to identify the caller. She was sitting on her bed, waiting for her husband to come get her, since the doctor had okayed her to go home for a few weeks before delivery. Sophia, it's me. And I'm calling to be sure you're the last person I speak to before I breathe my last, Brad said, making Sophia recognize him at once. Oh, okay, Brad. You've heard my voice now. Please do hurry up with what you have to do before anyone else speaks to you again. Say hi to Lucifer when you get to hell, Sophia said, before she pressed the red button on her screen. Jovani walked in with Dr. Fred as she threw her phone on the bed, letting out a long hiss. And who dares make my wife so angry? Jovani asked, looking concerned. The nerves of Brad to call me with a strange number, just to threaten me of ending it, as if I give a damn what he does with his miserable life. She spilled in a go. Well, I don't think he has much to worry about dying after all. The lead doctor in Kelly's hospital suspect that Kelly must have been killed by someone so close that he couldn't raise an alarm before things got bad. Brad is the prime suspect because he had been seen coming in with Kelly into the hospital and leaving in a hurry after some time, only to return later in a different outfit, asking to see Kelly, and acting all shocked to hear about his death, and worst of all, claiming not to have seen him the whole of that day, Jovani told his wife, making her cover her mouth in shock. But why would he kill Kelly? They were very good friends from what I know, Sophia asked puzzled. Well, Joe, If he is guilty, I'm sure he'll slip along the line, no matter how careful he may be. His sins will find him out. And about your wife, I assure you all is well now. You can now begin to shop for beautiful and adorable names for the children. At this stage, she is safe enough to go to church, to the market, to the malls and anywhere else she may like others to see her and the baby bump, because as it stands, even if anything arises at any point, the babies can be safely born now, Dr. Fred said. Wait, Fred, did you say babies? Are you saying my wife is carrying a set of twin? You can't be joking with something as serious as that, can you? Jovani asked Fred anxiously. Fred took time to explain to them why he didn't inform them from beginning, stating that he knew what anxiety and excitement could have done to them, and congratulated them again before he left them. Jovani and Sophia hugged each other happily, holding on to each other with so much excitement. They didn't know what to say. The doctor said it was okay for Sophia to go home. But after being in the hospital for 7 months, Jovani was now used to taking care of Sophia, not willing to let her even walk to the car. He lifted her up with some extra efforts, noticing how much she had added as her babies had fully developed, but gladly walked to the car, with her in his powerful arms. They spent the next day, visiting friends and family, making Sophia feel like a bird that had just been released from a cage. Her loving husband made her feel so good, playing all funny games his mind conjured, and taking her to several places, as though he wanted to make her catch up on the times she missed. Sophia noticed how people looked at her in shock whenever they noticed her baby bump, and how her family seemed to dote on her with so much love. Her sister called to congratulate her, and after talking for some time, Meg found out that her sister would welcome the twins soon, and excitedly promised to return to the country with her daughter and husband. Hello, Mr. Brad. This is Inspector Jim, the officer in charge of Kelly's murder case. I was told you were very close to Kelly while he lived, and you were so distraught when you heard the news of his death, the person on the phone told Brad. Yes, officer. I was and is still so troubled that someone could be terrible enough to harm someone as easygoing as Kelly. I don't even know how I'm going to come to terms with the fact that I'll never be able to see Kelly ever again in this lifetime, Brad said, beginning to feign a cry. It's okay, Mr. Brad. You can take it easy now. I just called to let you know that we're closer to catching the culprit than he knows. We're confident that we'll be swooping on him shortly. The one who took your friend out left the murder object in Kelly's office, and we also found one of his personal belongings there that has his DNA smeared on it. Our team of forensic experts will be taking a look at those stuffs by midnight today, so by tomorrow, we must have got the person where we want him, the voice informed Brad. Good. Very good. I like what I'm hearing. But wait, officer, how are you going to protect the evidences until the experts arrive by midnight? Brad asked, trying to remind himself to breath, because the information he was getting was making him suddenly pant for air, as though he had been running a marathon. We have our men guarding the office as we speak. They'll be there until about 11:30 p.m. when they will drive out to get the experts to the hospital. So before anyone will notice the door is free, they'd have returned with the experts, the voice informed Brad. I am so pleased to hear this. I'm so delighted to know that you guys are as committed to getting the culprit as I am, Brad said before he hung up abruptly. He was shaking, and his palm was sweating profusely. What if I didn't act so concerned that day? What if the inspector didn't call me now? So this is how Brad would have woken up tomorrow to police arrest and murder charge. Well, dear officer, you will bring those experts by 12 midnight as planned, but I can assure you it'll all be for nothing. Based on the privileged information I now have, I'll get what you're looking for out of that place even before you return to the hospital, Brad soliloquized, smiling triumphantly. But what did I leave there that could have my DNA smeared on it? I thought I picked all my personal effects out of that place before I left. What could I have missed? Oh, could it be that the part they punctured to get samples for the tests in the hospital before Kelly came to pick me up had somehow bled onto any stuff? Whatever it is, those guys aren't seeing any exhibit when they return with the forensic whatever. Brad told himself, humming happily. He rushed out of the house and decided to get 1 or 2 things ready before nightfall. I only have about 5 hours before it's 11:30 p.m. I must get the things needed for me to get that stupid door unlocked before they return, Brad said as he drove recklessly to a particular shop he knew sold the things he needed. Meanwhile, Meg and her family arrived earlier than scheduled, making Sophia and Mrs. Chaik so shocked but extraordinarily happy. Mrs. Chaik had been seeking for ways to get things in the right perspective between her and her first daughter, after realizing how unfairly she had treated her because of her first and only mistake in her teenage years. She realized that not only had she done things that could have further pushed the girl into deeper and more disastrous mistakes as a young girl, her judgmental attitude towards Meg was enough to make a young girl recoil to a sort of quietude and secrecy that could cause more harm to her future. Fortunately, Meg had chosen the right path and had fought to prove to her mother that going astray the first time wasn't tantamount to living a wayward life forever. And so, after getting gloriously wedded to her childhood sweetheart, Meg jetted out of the country with her husband and maintained just a filial relationship with her mother. She called her mother when the need arose, but never got chatty with her, since they didn't have that kind of relationship. Her mother could feel the distant closeness between them, but there was little or nothing she could do to make things change. Meg had grown used to staying away from her mother, and so, even though her husband had been doing so much to make things return to normal, she had been obstinate about it, until she heard that her sister was expecting. She decided to come to Nigeria just like her husband had suggested, and after all said and done, decided to mend fences. Mrs. Chike was all shades of emotions as she sat that night discussing with her two daughters. Meg's husband volunteered to accompany Jovani to an unspecified place he had said he was going to, so the ladies spent time with their mother, talking about this and that, and saying all the sorrows that needed to be said that night. In the end, Mrs. Chike got her daughter Meg forgiving her totally, but also learnt that truly, no child deserves to be written off. In fact, that child who seems to be gearing towards the wrong path should be loved more and lovingly cajoled into the right track. She looked at Sophia and thanked God for having mercy on her eventually. Who would have thought that the Sophia I assumed was the more decent and reserved among my daughters was actually the one that had been cajoled by a demon in human clothing called Brad into committing all manners of sins. Father, I'm grateful for you decided on have mercy on whom you'll have mercy on, Mrs. Chike thought with a smile on her face. A penny for your thoughts, mother. Sophia asked. Nah, I'm not that cheap. Make it $1 million and I'll tell you all I have ever thought and I'll ever think about having my two adorable daughters so blessed, Mrs. Chike said, making her daughters begin to laugh uncontrollably. Jovani knew his wife wouldn't let him move an inch if he told her the reason he was going out. He had to ask his co-in-law to go with him, insisting that where he was going to concerned only guys. Earlier that day, he had visited the police station with the lead doctor from Kelly's hospital to inquire about their progress with the investigation into the death of his cousin. We have every reason to believe that his friend Mr. Bard committed the crime, but unfortunately, we haven't been able to establish a motive for the crime. Neither have we been able to lay hands on any evidence that'll enable us take him in for prosecution, the investigating police officer told Jovani and the doctor that accompanied him there. Okay, officer. We must do something that will force him out. My father is very interested in this case because not finding the culprit in this murder would make him appear so bad before our extended family, Jovani said. We're doing our best, Mr. Jovani, but you must understand that we can't go outside the ambit of the law in our efforts to get a culprit down, the officer insisted. And I haven't asked you to do something unlawful. I just think we should set a bait and see if it'll lure him out. Then we can get the evidences we want, Jovani explained. I'm listening, the officer said, sitting up on his seat to listen to Jovani as explained the plans. And so, after Jovani sold his brilliant idea to the officer, and concluding plans on how to get Brad nabbed, he returned home to prepare for the night's assault. Meanwhile, Brad arrived the hospital premises and waited discreetly for the police to step out as he had known they would. He already got all the things he needed, and was only waiting for the right to make his move. 30 minutes seemed to be like ages as he stayed down, waiting the police out. He had intentionally arrived 30 minutes before the time the policemen were scheduled to leave the hospital, to enable him study the place and have a perfect and hitch-free operation. It's not going to be a big deal, getting in and out of the office before they return, he was thinking when he heard the engine of the police truck revving and looked up to see all the policemen he had seen before, getting on it, and driving out. Brad smiled in happiness as he began to find his way towards Kelly's office, intent on getting whatever it was that they said he had left there and getting away before they returned. He got out a hunting knife he had brought with him, and worked with some other wires that he brought for the purpose of getting into the office, messing up with the key in no time. Oh, Kelly, I feel so bad that you had to die that way. But I can't let them get whatever it is they said I left here and prosecute me for killing you out of anger for your mockery over my predicament. Now, where the hell is the stuff they said is here? The police chief heard Brad soliloquize inside Kelly's office, over the listening gadget connected to Kelly's office. He couldn't believe that Brad had bought the bait just like Jovani said he would. Brad had just walked into Kelly's heavily bugged office to search for something that was apparently as non-existent as his chances of remaining free after that night. Officers in position 2, move in now. Suspect is within perimeter and has made reasonable confessions that can aid his prosecution. Officers in wing 102, prepare for possible reinforcement. Officers in position 202, be on standby and at alert. Mr. Jovani, it's time to take him in. Please maintain your position. My men will take it up from here, the police chief spoke into his walkie-talkie. Jovani heard the shuffling of feet as men of the police force soon filled the office, making Brad so shocked that he didn't have the time to process everything happening before he was pushed to the ground, with his 2 hands firmly held behind him. What is going on? You're holding a wrong person, Brad tried to say, stuttering incoherently, while trying to understand what was going on. You're under arrest for the murder of Kelly. The investigating police officer was reading out, but Brad cut him off roughly. What are you talking about? How can I be under arrest for the murder of my dear friend and brother? I need to talk to your boss. He knows I'm the one hit the most by all of these. Brad screamed. Of course, sucker. You're hit the most by the clever stunt that pulled you out to come search for an incriminating evidence that links you to my cousin's murder, Jovani said, emerging in the line of Brad's sight from the office toilet. Brad nearly had a heart attack as it dawned on him that he had been tricked. I should have known that you're a snake. I should have remembered how dirty you can go. But just so you know, it's going to be my word against yours. There's no evidence that I did anything, so it's not going to be more than this stupid arrest. My lawyer will get me out first thing tomorrow, and your stupid cousin who could mock me in the face of all the misery he led me into would have died for nothing. And you know what, Jovani? I've been feeling bad that Kelly had to die by my hands, but now that I think of it, I'm happy that I stabbed him. Yes, I'm happy because he got what he deserved. He aborted the pregnancies I got him to abort all along without issues, but chose to make the one I love have complications, just because he had planned all along to have you take her away from me. And you know what, Jovani? He should have died in a more painful way for deceiving me into believing she'd never conceive again and advising me to leave her, only for you 2 treacherous relatives to take my Sophia away, making her all heavy and ready to birth another cursed child from your generation. Oh, Jovani, I like the look of pain on your face because I know it must be so painful to you that you lost your cousin, and even though you are standing face to face with the killer, you have no evidence to prosecute him. Brad said with a smirk. We'll see about that. We'll see what you do about all the recorded evidences of all you have said since you walked into this office, not forgetting the CCTV footages that will validate the audio records, Jovani scoffed, making Brad look up, to find the cameras all back to full function. In a moment of panic and frustration, Brad disarmed the policeman standing closest to him, arming himself with a sport knife, and lurched at Jovani when nobody expected it. Jovani was expecting Brad to get fussy, but never did he imagine that he could attempt to hurt him, even after he had been apprehended. He saw Brad's movement a little too late, and the element of shock that Brad had employed kept Jovani from reacting for some milliseconds. Providentially, Meg's husband was right beside him, and seeing him go suddenly immobile as the knife slashed the air in front of him, aiming for his chest, he gave Jovani a quick pull, making both of them fall down and having Brad's knife buried on the wall above them. Holy cow! One of the officers exclaimed, attacking and disarming Brad in a go. Let me go. Let me do this. Just this one officer. I don't want to die knowing that this traitor will continue living happily with my Sophia. Please look the other way just this once and I will be willing to will everything I have to you before I die, Brad begged the police officer, restraining him, while Jovani and the others looked in shock. You're in for a hell of a journey, Mr. Brad. You killed Chief Jonah's nephew, and right before men of the police force, you tried to also kill his son. And you still have the effrontery to ask me to allow you commit more crimes. Another police officer asked in shock as Brad got pulled out of Kelly's office. Are you okay? Jovani asked his co-in-law, whom he had fallen on as he tripped from the pull. I'm good. Just a little cut on my lips from the impact of your head on my face as we fell. But it's all good. What would I have told my wife, your wife and our mother-in-law if anything had happened to you, right under my watch, when we're anticipating the big news of the arrival of the twin babies? Jovani heard him say, and couldn't help but smile smugly, still feeling dizzy from the fall. The 2 guys got off and found their way to their car after they had ensured that Brad had been taken into custody. The police chief assured them that Brad's case was going to get the attention it deserved, seeing how much of a menace he had become. They headed home in high spirits, not thinking about a thing, until they were at the gate of Jovani's compound before they remembered that they needed to come up with a convincing story about how they got the injuries and why they were returning home so late in the night. Jovani's head was swollen at the back with a little cut from the impact with his co-in-law's teeth, and his partner's mouth was swollen. They had series of questions coming their way, and they knew it. The women were already sleeping when they got into the house, so the sitting room was as empty as it could be. "I'm telling my wife the truth, mate. I don't want her finding out later and making me sleep in the guest room for a week," Jovani said jokingly, making Meg's husband laugh a little too loudly. "Are you also going to tell me the truth? Or do you think you won't suffer a worse fate if I find out the truth myself?" They heard Meg asking suddenly as she walked up to her husband, looking very angry. "Look, I'm sorry, Meg. I made him." Jovani was trying to put up words for his friend but was cut short when he saw Sophia standing with her hands folded across her chest and her head resting on the door frame of the lobby door. "My love, I didn't know you're still awake. You should be sleeping now," Jovani stuttered. "Start talking, honey. Spill it already," she said so calmly you could think she wasn't interested in hearing what she was asking to be told. "Baby, Brad had been evading the police, so I decided to help them catch him, and along the line, Jovani said, rubbing the back of his head as he spoke. "You did what, honey? You put your life, our life, my children's future and everything that should count in life in danger because of who again? You made yourself available for a drowning and frustrated man to find a way to pull you down with him? You reckoned the police couldn't catch someone as inconsequential as Brad and chose to make such a huge and risky decision without letting me know. So that what becomes of me and my children, honey? You didn't pause to remember that your life is no longer for you alone but for me and my children, because of what again?" she screamed angrily, making Jovani feel so bad he felt like crying. "I'm sorry, baby. I guess I didn't think so well after all. I was just consumed by my anger and desire to see Brad paying for his sins that I didn't consider and analyze the hazards in the process. And I'm truly sorry about that, baby," Jovani begged his wife, not noticing that Meg had already pulled her husband towards the room they have been occupying since they landed. "Oh honey, you got this really bad, and I'm so disappointed," Sophia said and walked away, making Jovani trot behind her, begging her all the way, until they got into their bedroom. Jovani spent almost the whole of that night pacifying his wife, who had got the first aid kit and had the little cut on his head cleaned with hydrogen peroxide before she turned her back to him on the bed immediately after. "Ah, my head, oh God, what is happening to me?" Sophia heard her husband say just before he lay quietly on the bed at once. "Honey, please talk to me. What is it? Your head. Oh my God, what's all this?" Sophia panicked as she turned as quickly as she could, held her husband's face and began to caress his cheeks as she asked him to talk to her. Jovani kept his act, not saying anything, just looking at her as she bent over him and tried to make him sit up. He couldn't bear to have her stress herself so much as she tried to pull him up, so he covertly helped her by pushing himself up when she tried to pull him up. And as soon as he was in a sitting position, with her baby bump the only reason she wasn't having her body aligning with his, he pulled her face to himself and began to kiss her, catching her unawares and thanking his stars that his kisses were always a powerful antidote for her never easily going away temper. "Damn you," he heard her say as she kept hitting him on his chest, but she was soon relaxing. "Don't you dare try to be a hero again. Don't you dare, honey," Sophia warned him as soon as he let her out of his arms. "Cross my heart. I'll just only pick eggs from the poultry and milk the cows in the ranch if you wish," he said, making Sophia begin to laugh. The couple finally put off their bed lamp at about 2:32 a.m. that night and went to bed with the plans of having a really long sleep to make up for the good sleep they lost, only for Sophia to wake up to sharp pains in her lower abdomen some few hours later. "Honey, honey, my stomach," she screamed, waking her husband with a startle, and continued yelling so much that he was barely able to get her covered up before the others rushed into their room, with her screams getting louder each time it returned. Jovani was thrown into the biggest pandemonium of his life. He could see his wife in agonizing pain, and couldn't do a thing because his mother-in-law seemed to think it was a good thing that she was in pains. "Like, what is this? I'm not getting her pregnant ever again." Jovani complained angrily as he spoke with Dr. Fred, who also seemed glad that Sophia was in pains. "It's okay, Jovani. Your wife is having labor contractions, which is expected for someone in the stage of her pregnancy. Once this pain sets in, a woman can choose to go through the process on her own and deliver through the natural birth canal, or we sedate her and get the baby out through a cesarean section. Either way, the woman has to get to the hospital. So you'll have to bring your wife to the hospital now, because I have to begin the process immediately. I have been prepared and in wait for this call. So you may begin to head to the hospital now even before you drop this call, Dr. Fred told Jovani, and hung up quickly to get the other members of his team ready to receive her. Sophia had been taken into the hospital theater for only a few minutes when Jovani heard the cry of the first baby. And not later than 5 minutes, he heard the other baby bawling loudly too. "Mum, is it possible? Could the cries be of my babies?" Jovani asked, turning from his mother to his mother-in-law with the question. They didn't have to answer him because the next instant, 2 nurses emerged from the theater and asked the 2 grandmas to follow them. Jovani stayed back to wait for his wife to be wheeled out of the theater before he could even see his babies. "Oh baby, you've made me so proud today. Thank you so much, Sophia, my love. Thank you for making me a father," he told her, kissing her cheeks excitedly. Meg was all over herself with excitement. Though she had been expecting the twin, a part of her had been so worried and afraid, praying for things to go well and have her kid sister finally birthing the children peacefully. Her husband returned to Jovani's house with her baby when the twin babies had been brought out. But she had to stay back to congratulate her sister before she went home with her mother to get some things Sophia needed. A few days after the babies arrived, Sophia and her husband headed home with her babies in the company of their family. As they stepped out of the hospital that day, Jovani's mum bumped into an old friend and had to ask them to move ahead, as she stayed back to chat up Bianca, her old-time friend. "Congratulations on the birth of your grandchildren. I'm so happy for you, my friend. But you should consider having a DNA test conducted at this stage when the babies are still this young, when you haven't established any bond with them," she advised Mrs. Jonah. "Why's that? My son is happily married and I don't see the need for a test when we already know that the children are my son's," Mrs. Jonah replied her friend. "If you say so, my friend. But you can never be too sure. That was how I came here, so sure, and remained sure until some minutes ago, when the result was released. My irresponsible nephew isn't the father of the little girl, and from what I heard, even the one in his wife's womb isn't his. His wife told me a whole lot of things today, my friend, and I can't believe how damaged this generation has become," she told Mrs. Jonah, who opened her mouth in shock. "Are you kidding me?" Mrs. Jonah screamed. "I wish I was. I wish it'll turn to a joke that my nephew is going to serve a lifetime when he hadn't as much as left a child to carry on my brother's name," she complained. "Wait, did he kill the one who impregnated his wife? Why is he going to jail?" Mrs. Jonah asked Bianca. "My sister, it's a long story. That guy has been making innocent girls abort pregnancies for him, and from what I was told, got his main girlfriend to abort a pregnancy that led to some complications. He dropped that poor girl and brought a new girl to me. Long story short, his wife had been cheating because he was cheating, and he had been turned sterile by the drugs his wife had been feeding him. So he killed his doctor friend that made him leave his first love," she told Mrs. Jonah. "Wait a minute, Bianca, is this your nephew by chance called Brad?" Mrs. Jonah asked. "Yes, how do you know? You know Brad?" Bianca asked her friend in shock. The world is indeed a small place. Mrs. Jonah screamed before she began to narrate how she met Sophia and how the girl who was said to be unable to birth her own children was in fact the one that had just given her 2 grandchildren. "Sweetheart, am I going to sit all day waiting for you, while the twins begin to bond with others before we get home?" Chief Jonah asked, winding down his glass. "I have to go now. My husband is getting cranky. I'll see you around, Bianca," Mrs. Jonah told her friend after getting her current phone number and ran towards her husband's car to head home. Meanwhile, Jovani and his wife had reached their house and were in the children's room with Mrs. Chaik, who was changing the baby girl's diaper. She was restless all through the drive home, and Jovani had been making jokes about how guys know how to keep their cool because the baby boy was all cool and not as fussy as the girl. Mrs. Chaik had told them the girl could have excreted and was restless because of the discomfort of having excreta on her body. Turns out she was right, and the baby girl became all cool and good as soon as the diaper was changed. They were still laughing over a joke Mrs. Chaik made about a first-time mother who thought the only reason a baby cries is because it wants to be breastfed, when Mrs. Jonah walked into the room. She told them about her encounter with her friend and how she learnt that Brad, who thought Sophia's case was a write-off, was the one ending up without a child when God has so mercifully given Sophia a chance to experience the joy of motherhood. Sophia and Jovani were shocked to hear the details of how Brad ended up being both sterile and HIV positive as an addition to the life term he had been handed. The babies were named with an elaborate ceremony with Sophia and Jovani's family, trying to outdo each other in their display of love and joy for the arrival of the children. Brad's trial was quick and fair. He was sentenced to a lifetime in prison and taken to the prison from the court premises. Jovani's mum prevailed on Bianca, her friend, to forgive Emily, reminding her that the poor girl was just a pawn in the hands of Brad, Sylvester, and Audrey. She helped Bianca get a good lawyer who prosecuted Sylvester for criminal charges of maliciously rendering Brad sterile and had him thrown in jail. Emily couldn't believe her ears when she was told that Brad's aunt had chosen to officially adopt her daughter in Brad's name, making her heir to Brad's inheritance. She was more shocked to know how Sophia was related Aunt Bianca's friend, Mrs. Jonah, unable to understand why the woman chose to put in a good word for her when Sophia would ordinarily have been in a position to wish her ill. One morning, Sophia sat on her bed, thinking of how far God has brought her, and how in his mercies, she was now living happily, after the silly mistakes she had made at the early stage of her life. Indeed, God has been so merciful to me, because not all girls who disobeyed the wise counsel of keeping their body for their husband got lucky enough to survive the effects and results of their misdoing, she soliloquized, looking at her husband and her children as they slept. The twins had totally refused to stay in their room after Mrs. Chike and Meg and her family returned to their homes, so Sophia had to move in with them, and her ever-doting husband insisted on moving in with them too, because he knew his wife would never be able to take care of two babies at night alone. "Thank you for loving me so right, Jovani. You're the one God sent to take me away from misery," Sophia said, giving her husband a light kiss on the cheek. Jovani made her feel like a queen in every right, loving her so perfectly that she couldn't help but thank God that Brad disappointed her. Emily and her daughter became a friend of the Jonahs, and when her son was born, she was shocked at how much love Sophia and her family showed her. Sophia had no reason not to be nice to people around her because life itself was so nice to her. She was married to the most amazing man on earth, and God's love over their family made them live happily ever after. The end. Watch out for the next amazing story coming your way on this channel. If you're new here, please click on the subscribe button and turn on the notification bell to get notified when I post the next episode. Don't forget to leave a comment to tell us what you think about this story and how it ended for everyone involved.